Hello everyone, Tucker here at MassEffectFollower, and I have my buddy here from AntarticWildlife.
Hey.
And we're gonna talk about the Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer, as that multiplayer is something that has very much interested the both of us. So, let's start. And you know what the multiplayer is going to be in Mass Effect Andromeda, correct? Did you read that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the multiplayer in Mass Effect Andromeda, but it's confirmed, and that's honestly all we actually know so far.
Oh yeah, that's all that's all that's. All you said is like it's confirmed. That is really all that we really know. But there has been some kind of things about strike team missions and stuff like that. But keep going.
Yeah, there's been a couple of leaks that have come out. There was the survey leak, which is, I think, a couple of years old now. But so far that's rung true, and we've seen in the leaks that have come out since then that there is some overlap between them, which kind of gives them a bit of credibility. But yeah, strike missions was one of the big things mentioned in the leaks, and it's a little controversial for me because it plays into single player too.
Yeah, and we all know about with Mass Effect 3 how much that multiplayer affected single player.
Yeah, I think you couldn't get the best ending without playing multiplayer or without having DLC at first.
I think it was at first. I think it was you had to play multiplayer to get the best ending, but then they changed it. When the first DLC came out, they updated it.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. But yeah, a lot of the criticism of multiplayer was that it drained resources from single player, and also people who played single player didn't want to play multiplayer. Mass Effect for a lot of people is a single player only game, so so you can kind of understand why they wouldn't want to play multiplayer in a game which they're following a story of.
And multiplayer is a lot of fun, and I very much enjoyed it. But yeah, even with me, Mass Effect is about the single player. It's about the story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think the multiplayer gives us a lot more longevity. You can play the single-player campaign through so many times, but, there is a finite amount of choices you can make. But, yeah, I've put a good 1,000 hours into multiplayer, and I haven't put anything near that into single-player.
I'm kind of the opposite with that, but I have put a lot of time into multiplayer. I just got I think it's Unwavering achievement, which is to beat all maps on gold. I just got that.
I can't even remember the achievements. It was so long ago since I've done those achievements. But yeah, it's a great addition to the game, and I think a lot of the Mass Effect fan base actually does like multiplayer. I think a lot of people will be looking to get Mass Effect Andromeda specifically for the multiplayer. I certainly know a lot of people. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I'm pretty active in the communities which do play a lot of multiplayer, but there's definitely going to be people who are playing Mass Effect Andromeda, specifically for multiplayer. And it's a winning formula. It works. It's a very repetitive, grindy kind of thing, but it's done in a way which I think appeals to a lot of people.
And the thing about it is, it goes on the horde mode style thing, but it also builds on that. There are objectives like disarm the bombs, kill these certain people, things like that. It's the horde mode, but then they add their own thing to it, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's the RNG, the random number generator, which you have 3 random objectives, and you have 10 waves of enemies, and you can choose to play random map and enemy combinations as well. You don't need to play a fixed map or enemy, so it works in a lot of ways. And I think for a lot of people who are fans of the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, kind of just want that built on. There's nothing that I really want added on to that. I think if they stick with the current formula that they have, they'll be onto a winner for sure.
Yeah, that's another thing as well, is whenever I think horde mode, the two that come to me are Gears of War and Halo. And with Halo, you can't choose what's attacking you. It's either with Halo 5, you either get a map with Covenant or you get a map with Promethean. You don't get a choice really, and if you want to fight Covenant on this map or if you want to fight Promethean on this map, you don't have a choice. While BioWare or the Mass Effect 3, you could choose between Cerberus, Collectors, Geth,
and Reapers, yeah.
And Reapers. And then with Gears of War, I think they're the similar kind of thing. But with Gears of War, it is just the Locust. Although there are the Lambent, I don't really think you could choose between which ones were attacking you.
I mean, it's good. I mean, it's like I said, it's a definite winning formula that they've got, and I think the simplicity helps with that as well. You have game mode which has too much randomization, and you can't really immerse yourself in it because it feels like you're playing something which is a bit too arcadey. But if you're playing against the Reapers on an Earth map, for example, then you kind of can immerse yourself kind of in the same way as you would in the single player to an extent.
Mm-hmm. And so let's kind of start talking about the Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to kind of quickly go over this because in a previous video I talk about everything that we know and I go more in depth about multiplayer. But for the multiplayer, presumably for Mass Effect Andromeda, there are missions that pop up in single player, and you can send a squadron that you have to go do that mission, and you can let them go do their own thing, and you'll get XP and stuff and rewards, or you can do that mission in multiplayer with friends.
Yeah, and I think the implication of that is, if you decide to do that with friends in multiplayer, then you get additional rewards, and you get, but that also has an impact on your single player progress as well, and as well as your multiplayer progress.
Yeah, and it's not too much from. I mean, it's like it gives you in-game currency and rewards, but you're going to get those anyways if you just let them go do their own thing. It's just you get more if you do it multiplayer.
You have to ask, though, I mean, how much that really breaks immersion, though. I mean, if you're playing single player, and I'm just thinking back to Mass Effect 3. Let's say, for example, you're in the Cerberus headquarters, and then a section comes in, and then all of a sudden you're playing multiplayer with your squad mates. I mean, how much does that really break immersion? And I think that's the biggest criticism which is going to be made if this leak proves to be true.
Well, what I imagine it being is the thing comes up and it says, do you want to send a squad or do you want to save this for multiplayer? I'm guessing like that's what it'll be. Is like, do you pick option A? Do you pick option B? If you pick option A to let them go do their own thing or to let them go do it, then, give them, I think it also takes real time. So it takes like 30 minutes and then you get your reward. Or if you hit B, then, you can then go to multiplayer. So it gives you the choice, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm following, but I still think that it would be best if it deviated from them, at least limited to side quest missions, at least.
And I'm sure that with multiplayer, that there is going to be a multiplayer section where it'll just give you a random mission to go play. That's not the only way you can do multiplayer.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there'll be a dedicated multiplayer platform.
Yeah, I'm sure that they'll still have the missions and everything, but the way that it ties in is if it pops up, you can do it in multiplayer. And have you ever played Assassin's Creed Black Flag, out of curiosity?
I haven't, no. I've played a bit of Assassin's Creed 2, but I think that's the extent of it. It's I play mostly on PC, and the way of playing Assassin's Creed is through Uplay, I think. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah,
but it's it's really not the easiest DRM to get your head around, so I tend to stay away from that platform.
Well, in Assassin's Creed 4, there are when you're sailing around, you can capture other ships, and what you can do is send them out to go do something. So you can tell them to go out and trade with this area, and they'll go off in real time and do it, and then when they come back, you get rewards. I feel like it's going to be that same kind of thing, but if you wanted to, instead of sending out one of your ships, you can send out yourself with a few other friends. So I think that's what it's going to be like.
Yeah, Total War, actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the Total War games, but it has a similar sort of thing. You can auto-resolve the battle and let the PC do
Let the
it
AI
for
do
you.
it, or you can do it.
Yeah, you let the AI do it for you, or you can choose to actually command the thing yourself. And I think it'd be a good way of doing it, but I think the main multiplayer platform should hopefully offer a lot more than that as well. I'm hoping, as I said before, it will just build on the Mass Effect 3 model. I really would not be disappointed if it was a carbon copy of Mass Effect 3's multiplayer, but with additional maps, characters obviously to fit the Andromeda theme. And yeah, I mean, an exact copy, but just with improvements would be so welcome for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the multiplayer. And I think that even people that complained about the multiplayer, they didn't complain about the multiplayer. They complained with how it interacted with single player.
Right,
And to me,
exactly.
the way that they're saying that this one is supposedly going to work, I think that resolves that issue.
I think it does for the rational crowd. I think there's always going to be people who will reject multiplayer no matter how optional it is, because multiplayer obviously has a budget. And I believe BioWare actually confirmed that the multiplayer has a completely separate budget from single player. So for all intents and purposes, it shouldn't have any impact on single player at all from a budget point of view. The resources that get put into multiplayer don't come from the same pool that single player resources are taken from, supposedly. But I think you'll always get people who don't like something which has happened in the single player, or are disappointed in the way that something was done, and the logical thought process for them will be to blame the other thing which has been taking resources from the Mass Effect pot. And yeah, I think there will still be people who reject multiplayer purely based on that. Also purely based on the fact that they started playing Mass Effect as a single player game.
Yeah, and I mean, Mass Effect is a story game, but to evolve, I think it does have to have some form of multiplayer. And I know that people are going to say, like, games like Skyrim and games like Skyrim and things like that they don't need a multiplayer. But I just think that the way that it integrates with Mass Effect, I think it's really well done, and it helped evolve the game. It wasn't tacked on like Tomb Raider. It
also gives the opportunity to play as aliens, which is something which a lot of people want for Andromeda, and a lot of people were disappointed when they announced that you're going to have a human protagonist and you can't play as an alien. Whereas, I don't know if you're a fan of Dragon Age, but you can play as different races in the Dragon Age franchise, in Dragon Age Inquisition anyway, and you can choose your character and play a certain role with that alien, from that alien perspective. And a lot of people couldn't get that with Mass Effect because you play as Shepard, you follow the humanity, you follow humanity in a lot of ways, and a lot of people would like to play as aliens, just like we could play as Qunari or elves or dwarves in Dragon Age. So it does give an opportunity to do a bit of role-playing from another species point of view as well.
And, I mean, I do agree with that playing as a different race would be nice, but could you imagine playing the Mass Effect trilogy now as anything but a human?
It's difficult to say. I mean, you don't play as just a human, you play as Shepard. I think it would be difficult for Shepard to be anybody but human, because the storyline surrounding humanity is so definitive in that trilogy. But yeah, I think you could. It would be nice to play as one of your companions, for example. Like, I mean, wouldn't it be good to, I don't know, say, play as Rex and follow his storyline and play from his perspective, and going way back into the Krogan rebellions, and then playing all the way through up until the point of the genophage cure. I mean, I think that'd be amazing. It'd be nice to see that perspective, but yeah, I mean, Mass Effect trilogy is Shepard's story, and it just wouldn't be the same any other way.
And like what you were saying earlier, that about people complaining that they took away resources to add to the story. Well, I mean, wouldn't that kind of be the same thing if they did that, like you said, with Rex, to take away some of Shepard's story to add that story for Rex?
I mean, I guess. And the way of going about that, I think, would be to have that as additional content as DLC. And I think that'd be a really good way of doing DLC. I recently did a video about how integral the DLC is to the Mass Effect storyline, the core storyline. And what really disappoints me is that to get a full comprehension and understanding and experience that of the game kind of requires you to have the DLC. I mean, I've played the game with and without DLC, and it's like you get such a better experience when you have every single piece of downloadable content. And I think it'd be a good way of doing that, not only from a story point of view, because it would make it a totally optional thing. I mean, if you don't care for Rex, then, don't buy it. But I think for a lot of the hardcore fans, they would love that sort of thing.
So you're saying, like, you could play Lair the Shadowbroker as Liara?
Maybe not necessarily as Liara, but from a perspective which isn't Shepard's. So, I mean, in the case of Lair of the Shadowbroker, yeah, maybe you could play it as Liara, or maybe extend that back, so have the point where Liara takes Shepard's body from the Collector's... I've got that the wrong way around, haven't I?
Yeah.
When Liara takes saves Shepard's body and then has this affair with the Shadow Broker, I think it'd be really interesting to see that from that point of view, rather than just have Shepard's point of view. I mean, I think Liara should have maybe been a bit more integral to Mass Effect 2's storyline, considering she had a pretty big part to play behind the scenes.
I mean, I've always been fine with only playing as a human. But, I mean, what you're saying, those are good points. But to me, it doesn't bother me, because I just feel like the story would have been lost or watered down if you played as other races.
I mean, perhaps. It's a difficult one to say. Like, I think if you're playing if you're playing anyone other than Shepard, you're getting a watered down version of the story, because, like I said, it's Shepard's story. So it wouldn't make sense at all from any other perspective to do that. But I think it would be interesting, to say the least. And like I said, it would be nice to explore that extra bit of lore into other characters as well. Kind of like how the Citadel DLC turned out. I mean, you would have a lot of fan service for characters that they love. For example, in the case of Rex, you would follow Rex's story, and you'd get a much more in-depth perspective on Krogan lore and the character itself. So, like I said, though, I think that should probably be tied up in DLC rather than an actual integral part of the story.
Mm-hmm. And also, another thing about only being a human is the story for Mass Effect, to me, it also felt like it was about humanity trying to become accepted in the galactic universe, or in the Citadel, in the eyes of all the other races.
Yeah, I mean, it's humanity's rise to power, I guess. You start with Shepard first. You have the first human council, and then you have the first human Spectre, which follows after that. And it is a story about humanity in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, I have no problem, for the record, with playing as just a human. I would have perhaps liked to have seen Andromeda from a different perspective, given it's a new game and a fresh slate, I guess, in a lot of ways.
And the thing is we don't know if Mass Effect Andromeda is a one-off story, or if it's the beginning of another trilogy. So if it is a one-off, like say they do Mass Effect Andromeda, and this one takes place in the Helios cluster, which is just a small part of the Andromeda galaxy.
Sure.
There could be the sequel of it, Mass Effect Andromeda 2, could take place in just another random cluster, and this one could follow a Turian.
I mean, it could work in that sense.
So maybe the idea could maybe be that the Helios cluster is where the humans are going to go and try to colonize, and then the Turians are trying to go to cluster B and try to colonize that, and Asari trying to colonize cluster C. And it could be a trilogy in that point, and have different races to play as and still have like an overarching story.
I mean, it could work. Have you played Dragon Age? Because it kind of works in that way there. Where
Going to be honest, I just got Dragon Age Inquisition, but I did watch like a playthrough of Dragon Age Origins a while ago. Not too much that I remember, though.
Well, the way Dragon Age kind of works is you have the Thedas universe, and everything happens within that universe. But Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, and Inquisition are all very much different stories because they have different main characters. They all do sort of tie in, like you see some characters from one featuring in another.
There is an overarching story, but
sure,
it's not the same story.
Exactly. So perhaps Andromeda could follow that kind of thing. And I would be okay with that. I think Mass Effect was a trilogy which had a lot of people invested in it just because of how long it was. I mean, you started in, 2006, I think? And you go through to 2012. I mean, that's 6 years worth of investment of following a story, and it's one continuous story. It's not broken down into pieces. So when I played Dragon Age, I'm not as invested as I am in Mass Effect, just because you don't have that continuity.
Yeah, I think I remember reading that 500 choices that you make in Mass Effect 1 affect Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally believe that as well.
And they're not all like really big choices. It's like if you did this side quest or not is like one of them, or did you punch this reporter?
Yeah.
I mean, those are like little small ones, but it's still like 500 choices.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, I mean, I occasionally get lost in the YouTube world of looking at choices I didn't make on YouTube, and it's, I mean, I still haven't run out, and it's like months and months and months after I've finished my most recent playthrough. So there's so much to do, and you have to also wonder how much is really worth it. I mean, I think once you have a story which is continuing for that period of time, by the time you've got to the end of it, there's a huge amount of decisions and choices that you have to factor in, and that obviously has an impact on the amount of resources available to make the game as well.
I mean, I'm just thinking like, now I see why Mass Effect is on multiple discs, because you're really sitting back like all of those choices and stuff. It is pretty cool.
Yeah, and you also kind of have to. It also gives perspective of how long these kinds of games take to develop as well. I mean, a game like
Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty,
you can just put one out every single year, and it's...
Although to be fair, with those games, there's 3 different developers. It's not the same developer each year, but for Assassin's Creed, it is. So we can use that for an example.
Well, I think it was only up until recently. I haven't been following Call of Duty too much, but it was a Treyarch Infinity Ward back and forth.
Yeah.
I think,
so
like you said,
Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Sledgehammer came in, and they're making Advanced Warfare.
I honestly haven't been keeping track of the Call of Duty world.
I think Advanced Warfare... Yeah, because this year I've been hearing rumors about the next Modern Warfare game, which was Infinity Ward's IP. So yeah, last year's was Sledgehammer, but... Yeah, like, they can put those games out pretty quickly, but nothing in that game really matters about what you did in the past game.
Sure, yeah, because there's no continuity, and I think Dragon Age follows a similar path. I mean, Dragon Age, you have a huge amount of choices, just like in Mass Effect. You have a massive amount of dialogue. You have a lot of pathways which allow for multiple playthroughs. But yeah, I mean, Mass Effect's on a whole new plane because you have a 6 years worth of storyline.
Yeah, and again, choices that you make affect the story, so that must have added a lot of development time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Talking of development time, we're actually looking at we're in the last year of development, supposedly, assuming it doesn't get delayed anymore.
No, I don't think Mass Effect Andromeda is going to get really delayed anymore. I mean, they've put out a teaser of it. They've they even set a release date, not a specific date, but they said 2016, which they pushed it to 2017, which is kind of usual. early. They said early 2017, but it's all perfectly fine that it's all right there.
Do you think they're going to push that date back?
No, I think that they are ready to go.
Well,
especially because with that leaked gameplay, that looked beautiful and amazing and a lot of fun, and that was a few years old.
Yeah, I mean it is a few. I think it's been in development for. I think it was not long after Mass Effect 3, where the first sort of rumors were creeping in. So, I mean, you're looking at a good 3-4 years of development.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like we were just talking about the scale of it. I mean, it's a game which will take years and years to develop, and I'm just hoping that they release a game which is not just functional. I mean, Dragon Age Inquisition took years and years to develop, and they delayed that time and time again. But I mean, on release and for the months following the release, until a good 2 or 3 major patches, the gameplay was great and the gameplay was fantastic. But there was a lot of technical issues which I think could have possibly been ironed out before release.
Yeah, but I think that the release date is, I mean, I don't think it's going to go in 2018. I don't think they're going to push that. I think Q1 2017, we're going to have a brand new Mass Effect game to love and enjoy.
I certainly hope so. I mean, it's been far too long since Mass Effect 3 ended, and there's still that sort of sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, which definitely needs fixing.
Even though like Mass Effect 3 came out 2012, I think the last DLC for it came out 2013, but still, it's like, we want a new Mass Effect to play, and I think BioWare is aware.
There's only so many things you can talk about in the last trilogy, and yeah, I think it's been long overdue now. I mean, I would honestly love to have a new Dragon Age Mass Effect alternating every single year, but I don't think a game of that sort of scale is going to. It's not realistic as much as I would like it to be.
Yeah, they would either be. I mean, either the games would come out pretty bad, or they would have a development scale of about 500, 600 developers. And even with that, I don't think it would turn out as well. I think maybe every 2 years alternating, like there's a 2-year gap or a year gap, so it's like Mass Effect Andromeda, a year gap, Dragon Age, a year gap, Mass Effect, because BioWare has three offices, three buildings.
There's Edmonton, Austin, and
Montreal.
Montreal, right.
And so, I mean, I think that they would be able to kind of do that, kind of set something up like that. But definitely not each year a new one.
No, it's the game's it's far too big. That doesn't mean I don't want it though.
Oh no, I want it, but let's be realistic.
Yeah.
But with that, I mean, we're almost at 30 minutes here.
Yeah, I mean we have gone on quite a lot, so.
And also we're definitely going to be doing this sometime again in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We'll have a lot more to talk about.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of things to talk about. I mean, as news comes in as well, we have EA Play coming up in June. I think it's June 12th. Or is it the 19th?
I think it's a few days before EA or E3. So
right, yeah. I mean, it's EA's E3, isn't it? So. Yeah, it'll be good to. I'm hoping we'll get a good chunk of information to talk about because we're really running on fumes at the moment. So,
I mean, if you've seen the Mass Effect subreddit, I mean, people are getting excited about a goose cam. Which personally, I've probably spent more hours on that than I should have.
I think that's a good indication that we need some more news.
We're so lacking of news that we are on there talking with BioWare. But we're on there like, help us, give us information.
All right. Well, yeah, we can wrap this up, and I mean, yeah, like you said, we'll definitely do this again. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, of course. It's great having you.
All right. So, cheers.
Yep. If you enjoyed this, and if you actually watched the entire thing up to this point, leave a comment down below of what your thoughts are on the topics that we covered. And while you're down there, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button. And I will see you in the next video. Have a good day.